Hey, Shalom, it's your brother Wanathan, alright? First and foremost, I want to give all praises to the Most High, Yahweh, Bahashim, Yabashai, Bahashim, Rakah HaKadosh. I want to give double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. I want to say Shalom to all the brothers and, of course, the few sisters who are pursuing this truth in sincerity, alright? May the blessing of election be upon your house. I want to read Baruch 3 and 7 real quick. Actually, we'll start at verse 8. Just get straight to the point. It says, Behold, we are yet this day in our captivity, where thou hast scattered us. Okay? Now, you talk about the diaspora. The Israelites were scattered into every nation under heaven. Okay? All the major kingdoms that ruled the earth, Israelites were in captivity in those kingdoms. Okay? Look at Egypt. Look at Babylon. Look at Persia. The Medo-Persian Empire. Okay? Look at the Greeks. Look at the Romans. Okay? The nation of Israel, in some way, shape, or form, were in captivity or of the servant class of those kingdoms. Now, the sub-Saharan slave trade and the Americas, obviously. Okay? History repeats itself. Now, it says, for a reproach and a curse. Okay, now for a reproach, when you go to the previous chapter in Baruch 2 and 4, and I'm going to read it in the RSV. Okay, it says, and he gave them into subjection to all kingdoms around us, to be a reproach and a desolation among all surrounding peoples, where the Lord has scattered them. So wherever the nation of Israel is scattered, they're going to fit the bill of the curses. Keep in mind, the curses are not lifted until the return of Yahweh Shai, pursuant to Revelation 22 and verse 3. Okay? Now it says, and a curse. Now when you go to Baruch 1 and 20, also the RSV, it says, so to this day they have clung unto us the calamities and the curse, which the Lord declared through Moses his servant at the time when he brought our fathers out of the land of Egypt, to give us a land flowing with milk and honey. So right now we're under the curses of Deuteronomy 28, 15 through 68. Verses 15 through 68. Oh, okay. Now, let me continue on here. It says, and a curse to be subject to payments according to all the iniquities of our fathers, which departed from the Lord our God. Now, subject to payments. I want to go to Deuteronomy 28 and 44. Okay, let's go read that. Bear with me while I pull it up. And we're going to read it in the regular King James. It says, he shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him. He shall be the head, and thou shalt be the tail. Okay? Which is the reverse of the blessing in the kingdom of heaven. Deuteronomy 28 and 12. And make sure I remember this, because Elder Yashwama likes to bring this one up. Alright. It says, the Lord will open to you his good treasury. You know what a treasury is. The heavens to give you the rain to your land. So we're going to have complete control over our agricultural sect and the other nations' agricultural sect, because it talks about them, if they don't come up for particular feasts, that there's not going to be any any rain in their land. All right, so let's read this again from the top. And I was reading in the ESV. Let's go back to the KJV. Deuteronomy 28 and 12. The Lord shall open unto thee his good treasure, the heaven, to give the rain unto the land in the season, and to bless all the work of thine hand. Thou shalt lend unto many nations, and thou shalt not borrow. Meaning we're going to have control over the monetary system. All right? So it's going to be a reverse of what's going on now, because we are clearly the borrower. Right? Also, you go to no, I'll leave that where it's at. Let's go back to Baruch here. Group 3 and 8, it says, behold, we are yet this day in our captivity, when thou hast scattered us for reproach and a curse, to be subject to payments, according to all the iniquities of our fathers, which departed from the Lord our God. Okay. Now I want to go to Isaiah 10 and 1. All right. Let's read this. It says, woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees and write grievousness which they have prescribed, meaning they prescribe, or they legislate their hatred towards the nation of Israel. There's really no escape from the dependency on white supremacy. There's going to come a time where we're just going to have to completely drop everything, and we're going to have faith that the Lord is going to provide, which he is. He's going to come through. Scripture says, servants shall eat. All right. Now it says, woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees. I don't have a precept for this. You go to Psalms 58 and 2, and I'm going to read it in the ESV. It says, no, in your hearts you devise wrongs, and your hands deal out violence on the earth. Okay? They prescribe mischief by law. All right? And goes on to say, and that right grievousness which they have prescribed. Okay? Now, precepts for this as well. Let me go get this real quick. All right, we're jumping down to verse 23. All right, and this is in the ESV. It says, your princes are rebels and companions of thieves. All right, the leadership, even unto this day, the so-called leaders who the Esau props up as the leaders amongst Israel, they fit this bill right here. Check it out. It says, everyone loves a bribe. They take the gifts. They take the status that comes along with the money that's given to them. And in turn, they use as tools to destroy their own people. Everyone loves a bribe and runs after gifts. They do not bring justice to the fatherless, and the widow's cause does not come to them. They're not concerned with the spiritual, mental, economic, physical well-being of their own people. It's just about them. They're never about anything bigger than themselves. Unless it's the devil's work. Okay? Oh, that's on the nose, ain't it? Okay, now let's go to Psalms 94 and 20 says, shall the throne of iniquity have fellowship with thee, which frameth mischief by a law? Okay, this is what I was quoting earlier. Now, I want to get into Esau on this one. When you talk about Esau, all right, right now he is in rulership. In Isaiah 47, it talks about him being pulled out of that rulership seat. It talks about the daughter of Babylon. And when you link the daughter of Babylon up, it explains in Psalms 137, verses 7 and 8, who's going to be ruling the daughter of Babylon, and it's the Edomites. Okay? It says, shall the throne of iniquity have fellowship with thee, which frameth mischief by a law? All right? The Edomites, they're not going to get away with the evils that they've done. They're not going to get away with all the tactics that they employed to be in the position that they're in. And ultimately, the Lord just allowed them to be in that position. It's no strength or merit of their own. The Lord put them there. Okay? All they do is plot deceit and destruction. You can check that out in Psalms 52 and 2. All right? Which frameth mischief by a law. I mentioned earlier that they legislate the evil. that they want to do to the children of Israel. Psalms 50 and 16, ESV, it says, "But to the wicked God says, what right have you to recite my statutes and take my covenant on your lips?" Now they masquerading as the chosen people. Even nations like America, they swear in on the Bible. They act like, they have the moral high ground, like the Lord is with them. The Lord's going to hold them to that standard. So when he returns, man, they're going to be found guilty. They're going to be found guilty. All right, now, got one more precept here. Let's pull it up. Let's go to Habakkuk 2 and 6. And he's used debt to not only ensnare just the common man, but even nations. So we go to Habakkuk 2 and 6. And actually, I'll start at verse 5. It's talking about the wicked here. It says, "Yeah, also because he transgresseth by wine." Right, and this wine here is talking about the philosophies of the man, not the literal wine that someone drinks. Okay? "He is a proud man, neither keepeth at home." America, the elites use nations like America, use NATO and the EU to forward their way, their image into all of the earth. Okay, they use their military to extort all the earth of their resources while simultaneously Hellenizing the world in a sense. Okay, or Americanizing the world, Edomiting the world. All right, "Who enlargeth his desire as hell and is as death. Wherever he goes, the conditions of hell, all right, which is a living condition, or death, follows this man. He's the border of wickedness." It says, "But gathereth unto him all nations," because he seeks to control all of the people. He seeks to be like the Most High. So he gathers unto himself all nations and desires to control them. And particularly, he wants to gather to himself the nation of Israel, because we're the only two nations, the Edomites and Israelites, who will promise worldwide domination. And we're the ones who prophesy to rule evermore after his rulership ends. So he knows his real enemy is the nation of Israel. Okay? "But he gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people." And then it goes on to say, "Shall not these take up a parable against him?" All the nations, they're going to, they're plotting to get, the Edomites out of the way, especially the chief tribe of Edom, Amalek, small hats. And you can read about that in Obadiah, I believe it's verse 7, if I'm not mistaken. "And a taunting proverb against him, and say, Woe to him that increaseth that which is not his." And that's all this devil has done, which is increase that which is not his. Oppressing a man and his heritage. "How long? And to him that ladeth himself with thick clay." And this thick clay here, when you look it up in the Hebrew, it's going to go into debt. So they lent money on usury to nations, to the point that, they lent more money than they actually have. And that's why they want to get rid of the gold standard, silver standard, having money attached to a physical thing. So now they can lend more money than they actually have. And there's not enough money in circulation for these nations to even pay them back. So they'll always be in debt to the central banks, which are ruled by the elites of Edom. There's a famous quote by Nathan de Rothschild. He says, "I care not who makes a nation's laws, as long as I control their money." So, there you go. "And to him that ladeth himself with thick clay, shall not they rise up suddenly that shall bite thee, and awake that shall vex thee, and thou shalt be for booties unto them?" So America's destruction is prophesied in the scriptures. Okay, nations, have gotten much riches and power, being in bed with the whore, but that's all coming to an end. Okay, And just when they think something else is going to be, the Lord's going to intervene in the midst of all of it and set up the everlasting kingdom. Okay? So, we're not going to be in this state of bondage forever. But that's the reality right now. And while we're in this state, Zephaniah 2 and 3 says we are to seek righteousness, seek meekness, so that we may be hid in the day of the Lord's anger. Because, this place is circling the drain. Be on point with the Lord. Beware of what you're giving your time to, because you are what you give your time to. Okay? And make sure you're in good standing with him, because it's about to go down. So Abarat Tazah, the lesson was edifying. Want to give all praises once more to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Baruch HaKodash. Want to give double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. Want to say shalom to all the brothers and, of course, the few sisters who are pursuing the truth and sincerity. May the blessing of election be upon you. Shalom.